What's up, everyone? Welcome to Power Play with CJ. I'm going to focus in on the top 10 things we like about Brendan Witt. People say, you mean liked? No, like. I mean, he's not playing anymore, but it's still a present. You know what I mean? Present tense is someone that's alive. So, a little English spiel for you guys. Without further ado, number 10. Both Brendan Witt and I are on both sides of the political aisle, if you catch my drift. People don't know that about me. Number 9. He left the state of Florida for cultural reasons. I'm in the process of leaving the state of Florida for cultural reasons, among other things. It's not all Jimmy Buffett songs and margaritas I found in this state. Whatever. Number 8. He was the Legion of Boom in Seattle before Richard Sherman started talking. I mean, back in his T-Bird days, laying out bodies all over the Western Hockey League, it's the way to do it. Number 7. He played on the 1998 Washington Capitals, which, if you look at that roster, if you're like me, that's a connoisseur of great hockey, that roster is hilarious. Adam Oates, Joey Juneau, Phil Housley, Richard Zednik, Peter Bondra had 50 goals that year. It's only the goalie, for God's sakes. I think Bill Ranford was on that team. I mean, it was a classic mix of Dave Poyle and George McPhee, a simple talent on one team that somehow made it to the Stanley Cup Finals and beat my Bruins in the process. But it's kind of funny. I'm not knocking that team, but you look at the collection of players, and it's like, wow. Talk about Hall of Fame beauties right there. Number 6, he willingly fought Milan Lucic in 2008 when they were going at different ends of their career. I remember that was the, correct me if I'm wrong on this, the matinee game day after Thanksgiving. Bruins were like 9-1. That was one of my favorite Bruins seasons. 2 years ago is when I became a big, 2 years before that, 2006, 2007 was my first year as a big Bruins fan, and that 2008, 2019 was the first really, really successful year for the Bruins in my fanhood. Played on a team, number 5, he played on a team that made the playoffs for DiPietro. I know DiPietro didn't start game 1 of that playoff series. Again, another thing that's appalling that I can remember, but that Islanders team that made the playoffs. Smitty was on that team. That was another team that was like, that was a team. So Alexei Yashin, Smitty, a couple of the defensemen there were pretty, not exactly Norris Trophy caliber. And then Wade Dublowitz started a playoff game against the Buffalo Sabres. I remember watching. That was like game 1 because DiPietro had a concussion or an ass-ache or whatever, an ego problem. I'm sure. Number 4. The guy once one-punched Sean Avery for sparing him. That in a game in Los Angeles. That one I actually had to look up, but that was worth it. Anytime you can cold clock him, and then he kept going after Avery was down, which may be against the code, but who's keeping score with Sean Avery? Number 3. Dude got hit by an SUV and played that day. I mean, that's moderately impressive. I mean, it's really, it shows a little bit of toughness to have to do that, just a bit. Number 2, we both have the same tattoo, the Panther tattoo. I'll tweet it out later. It's actually, I got a funny story about that. He did the Inking Man's game for Sports Illustrated, and I think it was like 2007, 2008. He's playing for the Islanders, watching the game with my dad, and I was like, Dad, that dude has some dope ink. And my dad beat me with the remote, or at least he should have beat me with the remote for saying, dope ink. But I remember reading the article, going through all his tattoos, pretty cool stories. I'd love to have the Thunderbird tattoo story that didn't make. I don't think he had it at the time. But, he had the Panther tattoo that looked cool. And I'm not going to say I got a tattoo because of Brendan Witt, because that'd be pathetic on my part. But no, all due respect to number 32. I looked cool, and then I saw it on a few other people, and I went out and got it and got my own design on it. And the number 1 reason was for the way he was pushing. More people should have honored former Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, one of the greatest snipers in the history of the United States military. It was kind of a shame. It is a shame that it really didn't get. I mean, it got publicity, but the circumstances behind his death and what he did for the United States and for freedom on the whole is definitely something. If you haven't read his book or looked him up, it's definitely a great read. And he's one of the greatest snipers in the history of, like I said, the U.S. military. I've seen the movie too many times, but the 2 best snipers in the history of the U.S. for me are Randy Shootout and Gary Gordon. Because to get away from Rocky for a second, that was one of the most courageous rescue missions of all time. But back to the lighthearted stuff. Get serious and get back to the lighthearted. That's the top 10 things I like about Brendan. I mean, Brendan Witt and I, we're both Howard Stern fans, for one. Both like tattoos, hockey, Neil Young. I mean, if I were to go up to Montana, I guarantee if you crack the first beer at 4 o'clock, we'd still be talking at 4 a.m. Because between, like I said, Howard, music, hockey, ink, and if you were to come to Southie, I mean, if you were to come for the parade and start knocking out some yuppies, that'd be pretty cool as well. But anyway, Mr. Witt, all the best. That's one episode of the Power Play with CJ. Top 10 things we all like about Brendan Witt. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the season and beyond. Later, guys.